Oh, you slam that coffee.
I put a little something special in there, Bill.
Headphones on too, maybe.
Dude. So what's your go-to?
These are just notes about
Your coffee.
Your drink.
cold press.
Okay.
Cold press with a splash of almond milk.
Nice.
I used to go sugar-free turtle. I stopped doing sugar-free. I don't know.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, the first one I gave you, I made you today, was it?
Yeah, no, that was. And I put a little bit of that into this. I don't know what it was. Just went away from the sugar-free. Thought, just going to go straight diesel.
You think you know a guy, and then he goes and changes his coffee drink in the middle of the thing.
You know, there's a bunch of great coffees here, so why not? Play a little, try a little something
It's
different.
like I don't even know you.
I'm just trying to change. I'm trying to evolve a little bit.
I don't even know you.
Let a man evolve. I'm trying to have a little diversity in my life, and I just want to try a different coffee.
Okay.
I'm staying with the same base, just changing it up a little bit.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, by the way, the text you sent me, very professional.
Just trying to make sure we're all on time and everything.
Yeah, I read that too. I'm like, this is a 2-paragraph. See you here. I think Bill could have led your staff meeting today.
I'm glad I'm here to be a punching bag. Just to let out some of your frustrations.
There you go,
stuff,
bud.
Keeping you happy.
That's right.
All right. Ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Let's welcome back to another episode of 217 South Mills.
It's brought to you by Cabin Coffee, and we are live on location today. We have customers out in the lobby, live on location at 2922 Meadowlark Lane in Altoona, Wisconsin.
And we got another episode of the Man Cave Podcast.
Doing a little joint session today,
Yeah.
and it is busy in here.
Yeah, we got some people
You
in
guys
there
are
today.
hopping today. I mean, not like you ever have a slow day here, but it is definitely busy today.
Always something going on here. I walked in here today. We had some meetings going on and some interviews going on, and this is kind of the place to do that.
Absolutely. Looks like some people kind of doing some studying too. So there you
Yep.
A little bit of everything out there.
I like it.
Yeah. They're probably doing their draft picks out there.
Mock drafts.
They're doing mock drafts out there. That's what they're
Got to
doing in
change the
coffee
Buffalo one now.
shop. Exactly.
All right, so should we get to the draft? Is
let's
that
do
what
it.
we want
Let's
to
jump
talk about the
into it,
draft
yeah.
here?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're prepared too, man. Look at
We
that.
brought
You
some
got
notes. We
notes.
did a little studying.
Yeah.
We knew you were coming today.
The
so it's not
draft
just
is my favorite sporting event by far. It's my favorite thing. I went to when they first started making it a traveling thing and went to Chicago the first year. Went to that,
Dang.
and at that point, it was literally a beer tent, a couple other things, and that was it. And now you see it on TV, and it's just like this insane event over there. But I'll be in Green Bay. I already got the hotel for next year.
Yeah.
For
well,
that
that's
event.
going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people don't realize is all that real estate that they've been buying for the last 10, 15 years was all for next year's draft.
Yep.
That field that they put in, everything is set up to be able to host a draft. And they had that in their head probably 15 years ago, I believe.
I totally agree. Yep. Because you hear Mark Murphy, I mean, he's been saying it for how many years now? He's wanted to hold this draft, and he gets to retire 2 months after that. So that's a sweet going away party, a retirement party for him.
Exactly.
So,
The sad thing is, they're probably going to get 12 inches of snow the day before the draft in Green Bay.
And everybody's going to complain.
All these celebrities that want to go. And now the diehard fans, they're going to love it.
Yep.
They're going to be throwing snowballs. They're going to be riding the sleds down the hill at the brewery across the street from Lambeau. But the celebrities and hoity-toities that go to the draft, they're going to hate it.
When the Super Bowl was in Minnesota a few years ago, we were over there, and that was what they were complaining about. I'm like, everything's inside, though.
Yeah.
Like, you literally have to go outside for maybe a minute to get to your car.
Right.
And I'll be surprised if they have another one, just because everybody complained about it over there.
And it kind of adds to the ambiance. I mean, let's face it. As football players, we love playing in.
Absolutely.
I mean, I didn't mind snow. Rain was annoying because everything's slippery, but like snow, that was kind of the epitome of playing football. Like in the elements, that was football to me. As a kid, I watched the Ice Bowl and all those famous games where these guys were like, I mean, look, to me, it appeared to be gladiators in a snowstorm. And I don't know, just take it as it comes. It's Wisconsin.
Well, it's just like us with bowl games. You love playing in the bowl game, but you hate going to warm weather.
Yep.
Like, we'd rather play a bowl game in Camp Randall than we would in
Yeah.
Florida or
Yeah.
California. I mean, we respect the bowl, but hate that hot weather.
Yeah, and how about starting to get cramps again, like you did in like 3
Summer
days,
camp,
summer
exactly.
camp. Like, are you cramping? Yeah, I'm cramping. Like, oh,
Yep.
great.
Exactly.
Isn't it going to be weird? Chicago with that new stadium for the Bears are talking is going to have a dome.
I think that's going to be very weird.
Yeah, like I get it. Okay, so they want a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, they want all that. They want to hold Final Fours, which is, you know, that sort of stuff. But now Green Bay is going to be the only one in that division that's a domeless stadium.
Yeah.
That's just
It's going to be very strange.
Yeah.
Do you foresee Green Bay ever going to a dome?
No, I think I've always had respect for Green Bay even before I was a Packer. But when I really upped my respect was in 2002 when they renovated, and they had a choice. They were able to go to at that time every stadium was going .com.
Yep.
And they chose not to. They kept it Lambeau, and yes, they renovated it, but they kept it still the same. You know, they put more brick on the outside. It's not the old green stadium that I got drafted to in 01. But they kept everything else the same. Even the tunnel where they renovated inside, they kept the same blacktop or concrete that they had in the 60s. They didn't take that part out.
Yep.
Just so you're walking on the same ground that
They got
Lombardi's
that
players
plaque
walk
right
on.
next to it
Exactly.
over there.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, it's really like, and then I know there's like Kansas City, they're going through that thing too with the Chiefs where taxpayers said no to it. So now there's like, oh, are they going to move to actual Kansas? You know,
Right.
that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
And it's just, and I know what Murphy said last week that Green Bay and the mayor kind of cut off negotiations and all that. I'm like, this is just a PR war. Like, there's no way, there's Packers are leaving Green Bay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Joe knows I was a history major and I loved history and loved going to class. And I don't know. To me, I was a baseball fan long before I was a football fan. And I grew up being a Yankees fan growing up out east. And I was a fan of the Yankees in the early 80s with Don Mattingly, Dave Winfield, when they couldn't win a game. I think I went to 2 or 3 games my dad was able to take me to in my youth. They lost all 3 of them. But when they switched stadiums, I remember calling up my buddies and I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I wish they stayed in that. And I know the stadium was falling apart, this and that, but it was just history. And that's the way I look at Lambeau is there's too much history to move or to change it too much.
Yeah.
It's one thing to add press boxes or luxury suites, that stuff.
Yep.
But it's just, you got to keep.
It surprises me because I've actually had some listeners say they wish there was a dome on Lambeau. They just want to be comfortable in there. And I'm like,
spend more money, sit in the suite.
Right.
Or sit in the, not the suite, but like that section on the end zone where
the
you're
south
paying more
end
money,
zone.
but you're inside.
Yep, exactly. And it's
Do
like,
that.
if you're going to a game, that's part of the elements to me.
Exactly.
And it's
to go
part of the
sit.
experience.
Yeah.
I went to one Packer game when I was a kid, and they played the Raiders. That's all I remember, and it was freaking below zero, and I froze my butt off. I don't remember the outcome of the game. I remember who they played, but I remember that experience of the guy next to me who was just had probably been overserved by himself, had his shirt off, and I'm freezing, and my feet are freezing. But that's part of the experience. It's part of the ambiance. That's what you remember.
Were you debating going skin to skin to share body heat?
No, not even a little bit.
Just saying that.
No,
In
no.
Boy Scouts, that's what they taught us. Skin to skin, you share body heat, you can warm up. I just don't want you to get hypothermia.
Is that why offensive linemen go sleeveless when they're
No,
out?
that's a tough mentality. Yeah, exactly. It's all about
Show
toughness.
you're weak
Yeah.
ever.
So, do you want to talk about like Green Bay's kind of doing, or should we get to your story first here? Because I know it a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's
Well, I'll jump into mine really
Yeah.
quick, and then we can get into the current draft. So my deal, where it started off funny was I tore my quadricep tendon training for the combine. So I had to go back for the combine recheck, and then at pro day, and I think we talked about this in our combine episode, but at pro day I ran a horrible 40-yard dash, and they sent a scout down, which I didn't say his name before, and I'm not going to say it now, but they sent a scout from Green Bay. He's no longer a scout. I think he's actually an agent now. He came down to Camp Randall. We're in the Dave McLean Center, and I run a 40 again. I think it was 3 days before the draft. He's like, the Packers want a better time on you. I run a 40, and he shakes his head no. And one of our assistant strength coaches, Brian Bott, was in there, and he looks at me and he's like, you got to pick it up. And I'm just like, God, I don't want to tear this tendon, but I'm trying to push it. Run again. shakes his head no again. And he goes to, we call him B-Bot, Brian Bot. He goes to B-Bot. He's like, hey, do you have a tape measure? And he's like, yeah, I'll be right back. Goes down and gets the wheel tape measure. And he takes the wheel and I hold it on the goal line. The guy wheels it out and he goes, I know what's wrong. Your field is measured incorrectly. Your yards it's not 40 yards. So he puts a piece of tape down at the 36-yard line. And he goes, somebody measured your field wrong. And I look at B-Bot, and B-Bot's like, just gives me a nod, like, just run it again. I run one more 40, and he clocks me at the 36-yard line. He goes, that's good enough to take back to Green Bay. So I ran a 36-yard 40, and the Packers were happy with it. And he knew, like, he was figuring out a way. It was, who was the GM before Holmgren, or not Holmgren, before Sherman took over?
Wolf.
Yeah. That was I was Wolf's last draft class. And Wolf wanted me bad. But back then, still even today, and this is something I want to talk about today, all these kids opting out of running the 40.
Yeah.
Being like, look at what I do on tape. And I wish we knew that mentality back then. I would have loved to say, just look at my tape. Don't make me run a 40. But I ran a 36-yard 40. It was good enough for them to draft me. And my wife and I, at that time, we were dating in college. And I sort of had I became a man that day. And I was like, listen, I'm going to give you an ultimatum here. If you want to come back to Scranton with me, you're going to commit to go wherever I go. We're going to be together forever, blah, 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 blah. Or if you don't want to do that, let's just break up now. And she's like, no, I want to do that. So she comes home. We go to Scranton to watch the draft. And back then the draft was Saturday 1 through 3, Sunday 4 through 7. And my agent's telling me, Tony Agno, he was a Baltimore, Maryland guy, but he was born and raised in my hometown, which was sort of made it a little bit easier for me to pick him as my agent. We had mutual people that we both knew. And he goes, listen, the Packers have 2 picks in the 3rd round. I really feel you're going in the 3rd round. And similar to like a Mark Tauscher story, Tauscher was getting phone calls in the 1st round. He ended up being a 7th round draft pick. I started getting calls around the 2nd round. And
Cabin Coffee Altoona, located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane, Altoona, Wisconsin. Stop on by and try our drink of the month, the Brambleberry. Features our white coffee in 3 of our berry flavors. Great tasting, give you that pick-me-up from the caffeine. Cabin Coffee Altoona.
All of a sudden, the 3rd round comes, and the Packers take Torrance Marshall with their 1st pick. And we're like, okay, I'm going to be the 2nd pick. All my family's over the house. My wife now, girlfriend at the time's over the house. My sister, mom, dad, uncles. All of a sudden, the 2nd pick comes, and they take Baoju, safety or corner out of Penn State. My house, it just became a disaster. Like, my uncle's cursing at the TV. Like, I'm thinking they're about to break the TV. I'm just like, screw it. I'm done. I can't handle this. We got a community park about 3 blocks up from my house. Grab a basketball, and I walk 3 blocks and just start shooting hoops. And I didn't tell anybody. Hindsight, I probably should have said something to somebody where I was going. All of a sudden, they're yelling, screaming. My uncle's cursing. Like, we don't really speak fluent Italian, but they all know the curse words in Italian. They're cursing in Italian at the TV. And my girlfriend, wife now, is just scared, like, what is going on? So I come back to the house a couple hours later. Everyone's like, where were you? I'm like, just blowing off steam, shooting hoops. Get a call from my agent. My agent's like, listen, Sunday morning, they're starting with, I think, draft pick 101 on Sunday. He goes, the 105th draft pick is Green Bay. The 106th draft pick is Buffalo. He goes, Ron Wolf wants to take you with the 105th. But he goes, they already passed on you twice. If they don't take you, Buffalo 100% is going to take you. Get off the phone. I'm thrilled. I'm like, I have to go 5, maybe 6 picks the next day, and I'm going to be done. Mm-hmm. We have a party set up for Sunday night. We're going to enjoy ourselves. And I tell this to my girlfriend at the time, who committed. Now, keep in mind, like 2 days before, I said, if you come home, we go wherever you want to go, wherever I get picked. And she said, yes. So I go, listen, Green Bay's take me. Now, she's from Hatley, Wisconsin, small town in Wisconsin. So they're diehard Packer fans. I get off the phone with my agent, and I tell her, I said, listen, we're going to Green Bay with 105. If Green Bay passes, we're definitely going to get picked by Buffalo. she falls down on my high school bed and goes, "I don't want to live in Buffalo." And I'm like, what about the talk we just had? We just said we're going to go anywhere. So that's basically my draft story. The second coolest thing that we brought up in our last episode was when you get drafted, especially when you're not there, and only first rounders basically go to the draft, is that you get a phone call from the head coach. Oh, I'm sorry, the GM first. Ron Wolf was on the phone saying, "We're taking you with the next pick," which is, wish I had that recorded.
Right. I was going to ask, like, what was that
Just
feeling
an
like?
awesome thing to have happen. You know, like, I'm looking at my family because it's not on the screen yet. So you're on the phone. It hasn't come up on the TV, and I'm just like waving my hands, being like, "It's done, it's done." Going to Green Bay. Everybody starts yelling. You go from the GM to the head coach to the position coach, who was Larry Bechtel, who was a ball of energy in himself. Stands about maybe 5'8", probably 340 pounds, and just a spitfire. But then after the coaching staff, they put you to the equipment room. Now you got to start talking about like shoes, jerseys, all this helmet size, face mask, all that stuff. Because minicamp back then, minicamp was, I think the next weekend was the rookie minicamp. And while I'm on the phone with them, they ask about a jersey number. And I said, well, I wear number 60. And they're like, well, Rob Davis wears 60. You know, you're going to have to open up your checkbook for 60. And I'm like, listen, I'm not paying for anything. I'm not paying fines. I'm not paying for jerseys. None of that in the NFL. I go, what other numbers are available? And they go, 61's taken. I forget who had 61. 62 was Marco Rivera. That's taken. They go, 63 is available. And the story I tell is, when I was growing up, my dad didn't really know a lot about football, but he used to rent on VHS tapes from the video store Super Bowl I and II to have me watch Fuzzy Thurston and Jerry Kramer pull his guards. And that's the way he tried to help teach me how to be an offensive lineman and a guard and how to move. So I go, 63 is available? I'm like, how is that not retired? And they're like, no, it's available. I'm like, I just feel weird taking 63. And they're like, well, hang on 1 second. We'll give you Fuzzy's number. You could call him, then call us back. Literally, they gave me his cell phone number. And they're like, give him a call. Call us back when you're done with Fuzzy because we need to get this stuff done. So I hang up with them. I literally dialed the number, and I'm like, Mr. Thurston? He's like, yeah, who's this? I'm like, this is Billy Ferrario. I just got drafted by the Packers. He's like, I know who you are. I've been watching your career. And I go, well, I wanted to wear number 60, but it's taken. They said 63 is available. I wanted to ask you, is it okay that I wear that number? He's like, absolutely. I'd be proud of you to wear it. So
that's so cool.
Then later on became friends with them, hung out with them, got to listen to a ton of stories. So so that sort of sums up my whole draft day. And it was just the absolute blast. We ended it with a party. I think we grew up, our fancy food when we had money was clams. We didn't do lobster. We didn't do oysters. It was clams out east. I think we had 120 dozen clams at my draft party.
Wow.
We had like 3 grills. They were steaming them on grills, steaming them in the oven, steaming them everywhere you could. And 120 dozen clams.
Holy.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, no kidding. What was the cleat story now with the cardboard?
Oh,
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
So when they came in and they decided to retest your 20 or your 40, you're 36 actually. Did they check that height again that you've been you've been lying about since I met you?
Best friends like Joe like to always make fun of my height. So I wasn't blessed to be able to be as tall as Joe or some of our other linemen at Wisconsin. And I knew that was going to be a factor going to the combines. And I asked everybody that went to the combines the year before, like Chris McIntosh, Aaron Gibson, every guy that went the year before, I was like, how do they measure height? Like, tell me. I basically interviewed everybody that went to the combines the year before and said, what exactly do they do? Do you keep your socks on? How do you stand against the wall? Because I'm like, what could I do to help myself out a little bit? And I learned they don't make you take your socks off. They do a lot of things. You have to put your heels together. You got to put your feet out like a V. Your shoulder blades and your butt have to be up against the cinder block wall, but they don't make you take your socks off. So the night before the combines, I get a cardboard box and I just start cutting circles out of a cardboard box. And I take all these circles and a roll of duct tape in my suitcase to the combines to Indianapolis. And the morning that I knew we were going to do height, I taped about probably 4 to 6 circles underneath each heel with duct tape. Then I put my socks on and made sure the tape was short enough where it wouldn't show over the socks. And I got measured at 6'2" and 2/10. And I'm proud of those 2/10. Very proud of those 2/10.
I guess my other question too, with what you pack in your trunk, were you able to put your butt against the wall and have your shoulder blades touch? I don't think that's even possible. Is that a thing?
So you've been busting my butt for how many years about my height? Now you're going to talk about my butt?
Well, a little bit.
Is my butt too big for you?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's where my power comes from, Joe. I didn't have a bench, but I had a squat.
Okay.
That's I keep it all in the butt.
That's
Sorry.
awesome.
Now I keep a little bit in the stomach too. But we're working on the stomach. I don't know if I could. Maybe I could do a butt decrease. I don't know if they got that surgery.
No, that's fine.
I want to go back to the 40 quick.
No, and there's a 36.
36, my bad.
36,
My bad.
yeah.
36. Was that beneficial? Why do offensive like that's the question now? Like everybody asks, like should offensive linemen even run a 40 when it gets to the combine?
In my opinion, no. In my opinion, a lot of this stuff is archaic, but they trust it so much because it's nobody likes change in
Right.
life. You know, if you're in sales, if you're like Joe and I joke about our coffees, we like what we like. You typically don't change because you don't know if you're going to like the next
Right.
thing. They don't know if the next thing is going to work, and they know this has worked over time. In my opinion, it'd be one thing to have an O lineman run a 40, but you should be more concerned about the 10-yard burst because offensive linemen, like I joked today, like when my son plays baseball, football, a little bit of other basketball, stuff like that, and he might be quick to get a ball, and they're like, "Oh man, that Ferrario Jr. he's fast." I'm like, "No, we're not fast. We're quick.
Yeah.
Like we don't run a mile, we don't run 100,
Yep.
but we could be quick in short bursts, and that's what I think is more important. And one of the things I think we're going to talk about today is like some of these guys that are opting out of different exercises, whether it's and like here's another good example that Joe and I have talked about is the 2 1/4 test, the 225 bench test. You have to train to do that. These guys that have phenomenal numbers, there are people that just have brute strength, but otherwise you're training to get that number. Like
Right.
somebody like Joe Rye, and Joe had a much better bench than I did in college. And I'm just going to throw out stupid numbers, correct me if I'm wrong. If Joe's max bench was 415, that he could do 415 pounds one time, it's going to be a struggle for him to learn how to do 225 for 30 times. Even though the math says you should be able to do it, you have to train to do that. Where we were training more for power as opposed to
Like conditioning or something.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think for the bench press test, doing 225, that's an endurance thing. That's not a one-time. What do you have? It's how fatigued can you get your
Yes.
muscles and still perform. So I would rather almost do the one time because I can dig deep for that one. But if I'm doing 225, and I think the last time I even attempted a 225 test was when I was in law enforcement. We had a physical agility test type thing for SWAT, and I mean, without training, I think I did 19 or 20 somewhere in there, and I was like, that's not too bad considering I haven't done
exactly.
225 since like college, But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
I
sure
mean,
every other person in that class was probably pretty intimidated by that number because
yeah,
I
but
doubt
mean,
most of those guys are training
no, I
to put up that type of
but
weight.
it's definitely a different whole muscle memory. It's fatigue, it's endurance, and let's face it, we're not built for endurance. We're just built for power and speed and short bursts. So
And that's why I was like curious. Like, did you find out what that number was that scout wanted it below? Like, obviously
So
they
I
had a set.
knew prior to tearing my quad, my goal was to be below 5.1 in the 40. And after tearing my quad, the best time I think the best time I got at pro day was like a 5.4 or
Okay.
a 5.5, which for a mid-round O lineman isn't that great. And I think when I ran the 36-yard 40, I think I got a 5.31 or a 5.29
Okay.
at the 36-yard
36 yards.
yeah. So I think when you Google my 40, whatever that number is, 529 or 531 that comes up, that's a 36.
Every time I hear 40-yard dash now, I'm going to think 36.
36,
It's 36 over there.
It was so funny that it was just 3 of us in there, myself, Bebot, and the scout. And when he looked at us and was like, "Your field's measured wrong." Well, my first instinct was like, "What do you mean? Like we've been practicing on this field for like Joe and I have been there for 4 or 5 years. Like nobody ever said it was wrong." And Bebot, Brian Bott, the strength coach, just looks at me and is like, "Just say yes." Like
knew what he was
I
getting
knew
at.
in his
Yep.
eyes, he's like, just nodded. I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Now I started to get where we were going.
Right. Do you think, like a lot of fans, I've heard this too. Do you think, like, when it comes to the combine or even pro days or something like that, they should focus like certain positions, do certain stuff, like, going to that bench press? when I see a punter bench press 225 20 times, I mean, what? Okay, that's cool. You got a rip punter, but I don't really
Right.
care.
What does it matter?
Right, exactly. Do you think they need to do more of that? And then you hear like the common fans say, well, they should do it in pads, football stuff
Yeah.
like that. I mean, do you think there's some validity to stuff like that? Or
I don't think pads make a big difference. I really don't. You get so used to wearing pads, it becomes like any other profession you choose. Whether you're in construction, you wear a utility belt or a construction belt. Like pads were never a factor. I guess in my opinion, I never thought, oh, my shoulder pads feel tight today. It just became like you're putting on your work outfit, I guess. So as far as pads, I don't really care, but I do agree. I almost think that they should make it specific towards your position. For like offensive linemen, for pulling, if you're going to be a guard. Like, how fast can you get out of your stance and do your kick slide for a tackle? Like, those are the things that you should be measuring because that's what you're going to be doing all the time. However, if you're a multi-position player, where does that fall into place?
No, I agree. And even Joe and I talked about the other day just how the Pro Bowl's gone downhill since when we were kids to today. And we were talking about, as offensive linemen, one of the, I think, most surprising, eye-opening moments we ever saw in our life with football was at the Pro Bowl with Larry Allen doing the bench press. And I think it was a 315 test they did at the Pro Bowl. I'm not saying to do that, but, and this is half joke and half serious, it's almost like you should do the combines like a Pro Bowl and have them do that. People are going to love to watch it.
Yep.
I think scouts could learn a lot, even though when we used to watch the Pro Bowl, it was funny watching big guys run in circles and do the stuff.
Yep.
But you see who's athletic and who's not.
Yep.
Even at the Pro Bowl, guys that are the best at their craft, you see one guy do it and he's like smooth as could be. You see another guy and you're like, he's still good at his job, but
Right.
he's not running like an athlete. Back to pads, though, what's funny has evolved. When Joe and I were in college, pads were as big as they possibly could
Right.
be. They wanted us to be big, let alone protection. I think part of it was the look as well. By the my last team I was with was Carolina, and I knew I was going to play center. When I went in there, compared from college, I had the biggest pads. I think we had power pads back in college that were huge. By the time I got to Carolina, I know I'm playing center. I grabbed a pair of receiver pads, asked them for a pair of scissors in the equipment room, and started cutting out everything around the front of the shoulder just to make my arms to not have any interference, especially with snapping. And like literally took scissors and just cut that pad out. And, you look at even comparing uniforms, and we didn't even talk about this on our episode with uniforms. We wore thigh pads, we wore hip pads, we wore butt pads. You look at an NFL offensive lineman or receiver, we see more with receivers, but old linemen are doing it too. They have no pads in their pads.
Right.
They have no hip pads, no butt. Like in college, it was mandatory. You'd get a penalty if you didn't have the 1/4 inch, look like a hot dog bun, tailbone pad in the back of your pants. You'd get a penalty called on you. So we put them in, we call them ruds, the spandex pants. They had pockets, you could put them all in there. But nowadays in the NFL, nobody wears thigh boards, knee pads, none of that.
No, like I remember Charles Woodson when he was with Green Bay because he broke his collarbone.
Yep.
And they forced him to wear bigger pads to protect that, and he hated it.
Yeah.
I remember he was talking about it. He wanted the really small ones,
Yep.
and I'm like, it's that mentality. Like I understand it, but it probably makes moves a little bit quicker playing the position he did in the back end there. But
Hey, Bill, did you wear knee braces in college or no? I mean, sorry, in the NFL.
In college, yes. In the NFL, no.
Really?
So when I got to Green Bay, I took my knee braces from college to Green Bay. And I remember I looked around the locker room the first day of practice while we're getting changed. And we talked about this on our episode about uniforms. Our knee braces in college, they were either $1,000 a pair or $1,000 for the pair. Okay.
No, they're $1,000 piece.
They were
custom
$1,000
made.
piece knee braces. They were DonJoy. Now I'm sure the prices come down, but DonJoy just came out as this new company. It was a brand new knee brace, and it was a knee brace that technically somebody could roll into you, and you're not going to tear your ACL because it's going to hold tight. Technically, because Joe's the exception to the rule, where it didn't do its job. Maybe we should file a lawsuit against DonJoy.
Maybe.
I could be your lawyer. we'll talk about that in the next episode. But so I get to Green Bay and I look around the locker room. I'm like, "Don't you guys wear knee braces?" And they're like, "No. If it's slow, anything that hampers your game 1 ounce, you don't do." So I looked around. I literally took them $2,000 of knee braces, dropped them in the garbage. It was just like, well, I'd rather, if I'm going to be slow and that's going to cause me to lose a job or
Yeah.
to move down in the roster, I threw them away.
Yeah.
Just like cutting the shoulder pads, just like, when I played center, I never wore a glove. So like when I played guard, I wanted gloves on. When I played center, I was like, the one time I tried playing center, when it was raining or I was sweating one way or the other, my hands were wet, the ball slipped, and I was like, screw it, done with that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's just you eliminate it. And yeah, it's a tough decision to make. And yeah, you could end your career, but at the same time, too, you might end your career by wearing the knee braces and you're slower than everybody else.
Right.
So
Yeah. So that knee brace thing's been good because obviously, Wisconsin still does that, but that was a thing when you guys were playing too.
Mhm.
Like,
it became a thing. I think in '97.
Yep.
Okay.
So prior to '97, I think it was a little bit more choice, and it was the old school, like 1970, like the metal bracket on the side of your leg.
Mhm.
Where in '97, that's when the DonJoy came out, and offensive linemen, it was mandatory unless we went. I think when we went only helmets, we didn't have to wear them.
Right, but
If it was
otherwise
only
you
helmets or a
practice.
walkthrough, you didn't have to wear them. But if we had shoulder pads on, you had to wear them.
Right.
yeah. How big of an adjustment was that for you guys?
It was huge.
It was.
You go-
I mean, not only that, but they weren't just like run of the mill. They were actually measured for you. They came in, they measured your quad, they measured your knee. I mean, so this thing was only. I mean, I couldn't borrow bills. You
Right,
know,
yeah.
I mean, it was custom made for you, and it kind of gave us that Forrest Gump. When he's wearing the knee braces as a kid, that's kind of the impression. But then after a while, like I said, it's
You got used to
You
it.
got used to it.
We wore them for 4 years, so you get accustomed to it. But yeah, in '97, I think that camp, we all felt like robots trying to walk.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's like bending with your knee, and you feel all awkward. And we even talked. You want to address the situation that came up?
so. And I think we talked about this on ours.
Yeah.
So after a while, you wear these things, and they never ever dried out. So you wear them, and we were doing 3-a-days in camp and stuff like that. And like no matter where you hung them in your locker, they were always wet. They were constantly being wet. And after a while, we developed like.
Well, tell them what they told us.
Oh yeah, I'm getting to that.
All right, sorry. I get, Joe,
Can I have a conversation
you know
here?
me. I get excited. What, you wanted to go get a coffee?
But go in the lobby. I'm busy here.
I'm sorry.
So we start getting these little red bumps and on where your pads were sitting, and you thought maybe it was like an infected hair or something. So
Yeah.
you squeeze it, and then the next day you have 2, and then you have 4, and this thing is like spreading just where your knee brace is resting, and we just thought nothing of it. Well, then they're like, "Oh, we know what happened there. You guys got stung by bees."
This
And I'm
is, this is right before we play our first game of our college career, the Kickoff Classic against Syracuse and Donovan McNabb. Literally the day before, they're like, oh, there was a bunch of bees at practice, and you guys got stung by bees. But all of the linemen, only offensive linemen,
In that
allegedly
certain
have
area,
bee
too.
stings on the inside and outside the knee.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's only where the knee braces were, and I don't like those are some crazy bees to get in,
I was gonna
underneath
say,
my
I
knee
think
brace.
I would feel a lot of bees coming in. And,
Exactly. I go, I've been stung by a bee. I know what that feels like.
But we're all sitting there and we're looking at each other, and you all have matching like wounds,
Bee stings.
bee stings. Like, oh, that one's gross. Like, whoa, let's go. That was a big one that got, and it ultimately it ended up. And they didn't tell us this till afterwards. Is we had staph infection,
oh, jeez.
So they start drying our knee brace. They start dipping our knee braces in
ammonia.
and drying them in front of fans. So it's like 10 years later. I'm in Wausau. I get to become friends with some doctors in Wausau, and I'm telling this story, and they're like, "You had staph?" I'm like,
We all did.
I go, we all had staph. I go, we did it as a team. Like all the offensive linemen had staph. They're like, you could die from a staph infection. I'm like, well, they told us it was a bee sting. So it's no big deal.
So it was fine.
We all did it.
Yeah.
You know?
We all got through it. We lived. We survived.
Oh my god! Wow. So you mentioned about players opting out of doing these
Yeah.
drills.
So, and I don't know, like, I know Braylon Allen was one of them. Now, granted, he's coming off an injury, the Wisconsin running back.
Well, even like Marvin Harrison Jr., the Ohio State
Yeah.
wide receiver, didn't do anything.
I
Combine or pro day.
think this year, almost like when NIL started, everybody looked at it from a different angle. I think this year, I think it's going to hurt these kids a little bit because it's never been done before. But I think over time, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do when I'm healthy? look at my tape. You either like me or you don't like me. But I think year one, the NFL, even though it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, they're just archaic with their habits. And their habits are 40-yard dash, 225 test, just different things that they've done every single year. And they're consistent with those habits. So I think it's going to be a possible issue this year, but I think over time it makes sense.
I also think what they're seeing on film is not a one, he had a good game. That's accumulation of over the years of this athlete playing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've proved myself for 4 years as to what I can do, you see my highlights. I'm here for a reason. Is that enough? I almost have to agree with it in a way. Like for your case, you had an injury. How that injury is going to affect all the work that you did for 4 years, 50 starts?
Yep. And that's
Put on
the
the tape.
argument. Yeah,
Put on the tape.
exactly. And there's the argument there is like, so my sort of claim to fame when it comes to friends and family, like for the most part, Joe will probably disagree, but for the most part, I'd like to say I'm a humble guy. But for the most part, I said, I prefaced it with the most part, but amongst friends and
So
family.
that makes it true. Okay.
But amongst friends and family, my claim to fame, I argue, is my draft year, I went in the 4th round, 105th pick, but I was the 3rd guard taken my year. The next year, in the 2002 draft, they had 5 offensive guards taken in the 1st round.
Ooh.
So now you go back to that number and look, okay, if that number didn't exist and there was no number to compare previous years and where should we draft them based off that number, the number 1 pick was offensive guard was Steve Hutchinson.
Okay.
I don't take anything away
Yeah.
from him. He was absolutely freaking phenomenal.
The stud.
But number 2 was Mike Gandy, guard from Notre Dame. Not taking anything away from him, but I think me and him were neck and neck. And I think Gandy went either late 1st round or early 2nd round. So technically you could say it was a coin toss between me and him that I went 3rd. I probably was the other guy who was looking at. If that 40-yard dash wasn't there as a number, would those 2 positions have swapped?
True.
Who knows?
He's
So-
probably taller than you anyway, so
Well,
let's face it.
everybody was taller than me on the freaking offensive line. Like, I mean, come on now.
That's what I was going to ask you too. If you remember the 2 guys ahead of you,
Yeah.
because you
Steve
had
Hutchinson and Mike Gandy.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was when I was in Carolina, which my last team, I get called out for a workout, and they brought 2 guys to Carolina to work out, myself and Mike Gandy.
oh,
He got taken ahead of me. So and it was a rare deal. I went on, in 2003, I think I went on 16 workouts in 2003 when I got let go from Green Bay. This is after I was done in Washington. I probably went on 3 workouts, and my last workout was Carolina. They bring myself and Mike Gandy out there. We're out there. We do our workout, basically one after another. Like, he watches me, I watch him. We work out. We go back to the hotel, and we're waiting. The team organizes everything. So we're waiting for them to call us to say, okay, you got a driver. You're going to the airport. Here's your flight. They call us both and say, we're not sending you home until we make a decision. So literally, I'm sitting in my hotel room. His hotel room happens to be next to mine. And we're just sitting there. Finally, I walk next door and knock on the door. And I'm like, hey, Mike, what's up? He's like, just waiting. I go, you want to wait together? So we sat in the same hotel room. Literally, we're in his hotel room. We both get a call. His phone call was, you didn't pass your physical. My phone call was, we want to sign you.
Wow.
And they're like, no, they didn't send me home. I think I went home, flew back on the next off day, grabbed some stuff, flew back like one day back to Wisconsin, back to Carolina just to get stuff out there. And then my wife drove my truck down like a couple weeks later. But yeah,
Just fast paced that quick.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Unreal. So, yeah, I was just kind of curious, like, because you got guys college, not even going to bowl games. I know we've talked about that before, and now not even doing these workouts and such. And that's what always like perplexed me too. Is like, okay, a guy runs a really fast 40, and all of a sudden he just vaults up into as a 1st round pick, and I'm like, you're basing that off of one straight line run, and you got all this other tape. Like, what was it about that one thing that just skyrocketed it up there?
Right.
Like, I feel like
you might as well go get the nation's leader in the 100 meter dash.
Right, exactly.
But can he play ball? Is he an athlete? Like,
Right. There's so
where
much
it gets
more
mixed
to
up.
this, and I just I understand it at a certain point. Like, you want speed, but it's like if he wasn't a first round pick, why did a 140-yard dash in a controlled environment
Yep.
instantly improve a guy
And all
by
that
a round or two?
training to do that.
Exactly.
One run.
I honestly feel like, and I don't know, I could be completely wrong, but I honestly feel like there's some guys who just like, okay, I want to break that record or try to get
Yeah.
under 4.3, and
Yeah.
you know, because they know they're going to get probably an improved draft stock from
Yeah.
that,
Absolutely.
or at least a lot of media attention for a few days
Exactly.
Absolutely.
with that. So, but
Cabin Coffee Altoona, located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane in Altoona, Wisconsin. Hey, folks, we are a roastery. We buy our beans green from all over the world and roast right here on site. It's better than the stale, burnt, brown flavor water that you're used to. So stop on by.
so what I want to ask you one more thing with your draft thing. Did you have, this is going to sound bad.
Yeah.
Did you have caller ID back then?
No.
You didn't have caller ID?
We didn't have caller ID, but I think I knew a couple area codes.
Okay.
So I knew Green Bay.
So you knew 920 coming out?
Yeah, it was Green Bay.
So
Yeah.
what was like the first words that Ron Wolf said to you?
I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something like, "We're taking it with the next pick."
Yeah.
You know, this is Ron Wolf from the Green Bay Packers. We're going to take it with the next pick. And I think after that, I probably went blank for like a minute or two. Just
Yeah.
said, "Okay, thank you,"
Yeah.
and like just kept listening. But yeah, everybody in the house started going nuts. So,
Yeah. So what we see on TV was kind of like your house?
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
A little bit like
Only, like I said, the day before, a lot of cursing in Italian or broken Italian English. But yeah,
And now celebratory Italian
Yeah.
broken English?
it was celebratory on Sunday. Like, let's go
He's
get
a
the clams. Let's go get the clams. Let's do this. Let's do that. Yeah. So we already had the hall. What was funny was we had the hall rented that was across the street from the basketball court that I went to the night before.
Mhm.
So that's where we went to have the party the next day. So yeah, no, we had a really good time. A lot of funny stories. My one uncle made up ICCS t-shirts, Italian Clam Club of Scranton, with a big clam on the shirt. So some of my high school buddies still have it to this day, and they're like, this is glory from draft day 2001.
Perfect.
Did you invite Joe to the party?
Yeah.
No,
Where's
yeah.
my invite?
I don't know.
Oh, that's right.
I thought you were just going to show up.
No.
I thought best friends don't need an invite. I thought you're there for each other.
I was in recruit school to be a cop. Yeah, that's right.
I didn't want to bother. So.
Yeah, that's it. Uh-huh.
I knew he was focusing on his
Where's my-
225 tests. So
Where's my clams, guy?
I'll get you some.
And where's
clams.
my shirt?
I'll get you a shirt.
I was going to say, where's the shirt at? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure I got an extra shirt back at the house.
So how much are you, even though, because you were a part of that process, is that something you still kind of watch every single year now? Or you kind of, I mean, it's a big deal now. Like
Yeah.
the drafts, I mean, would you say it's a lot bigger than when you were in it?
Oh,
I
a lot bigger. A lot bigger. Just everything that surrounds the draft, the lead up to it, even like how it is pushed out where it's only the first round, which, God, if I was a first rounder, I think it's almost harder to go to the draft if you want to be a first rounder today than back when we were younger, where if you went to the draft with us, you were expecting to be a first rounder, but you went in the second round, it just keeps going.
Right, yeah.
Where today, if you don't make the first round, it's all right, 24 more hours.
Yeah.
You got to leave the draft, go to your hotel, which I don't know. If I wasn't guaranteed, I think top 10,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be going.
And how embarrassing. You show up there thinking you're going to be in the top 10 and you end up in like third round.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Like,
and that's
and the camera is on you and your family's there and your girlfriend or significant other. And like, you're really putting yourself out there, you know.
And you took the time to duct tape more cardboard,
More
to your heels
cardboard to your
just for
heels.
draft day.
Absolutely.
So you look tall
Yeah.
when you're on stage.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because you mentioned that too. Then the cameras are going to be on you. They're like, well, he's the last guy in the green room. And it's like, you got that label.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's like, well, for crying out loud, you know.
And how do you
Did you
maintain
come back the next day or
how
not?
do you maintain your face like, oh,
Yeah.
this is great.
Yeah. It's like I don't even know if I'd come back the next day.
Yeah.
I-
It'd be a tough
It's almost
decision,
like a participation award.
Absolutely.
You know, you get, because even like in the second or third round, Goodell doesn't even go out there unless it's a guy still in the green room.
Yeah.
Then he'll come out. I'm like, okay, I don't need the extra. You know, like
Yeah.
Oh,
pick me up there.
thanks for the sympathy. That's great.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
But I'm sure, like like the one movie that I think there's a couple movies that are really, really close to what football's like, and one of them is Draft Day. With,
Do you really? Yeah.
I do think there's a ton of similarities in that movie to what at least potentially happens on Draft Day. But my point is, if you're one of those guys that don't get drafted in the first round, I think your agent is going to slam his fist on the table and say, you're showing up the next day. Because I think teams are going to look at that and say, oh, he didn't come back. Did he get defeated because he didn't get picked in the first? Like, I think a lot is going to play into the character of a person.
How does he
on
handle
how he
adversity
reacts.
and all that
Exactly.
stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up draft day. I got to watch that. It's my like annual tradition now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I went to the theater to watch that first day. I made my wife come with me and all that. Yeah.
I love it. Joe and I just watched it again the other night. Yeah.
I mean, Sam Elliott as the Badger coach is perfect.
Now, I will say, we weren't thrilled that they used the Badgers.
You weren't?
No, because, like he's sort of the bad guy in the whole deal.
Bo Callahan, yeah.
Bo Callahan.
Yeah.
So it's like, I would have rather that been, I don't know, Illinois, Michigan.
Would you guys have gone to his birthday party?
Well,
once
again,
the open bar, 1,000% we would be there.
Exactly.
Otherwise, no, I'm not going to show up there. And
but we're still posing him as the bad guy. Like, that's my thing. Is like, I just wish it was another team as the bad guy. And but it was nice to see Wisconsin. We did laugh. Just for all the fans and listeners out there, what you see in draft day, Wisconsin doesn't look anything like that.
Yeah, right.
The practice fields, the schools, any of that. So. But the helmets were legit, the W's, all that stuff. Why didn't they call us up? We could have been actors in the movie.
Well, then does it kind of grind your gears a little bit too that the feel-good number one was an Ohio State linebacker?
You know what? I think it was tough seeing Ohio State, but you fall in love with him. You know what I mean? Just his situation, his attitude, the way he plays. But yeah, it's still tough being Wisconsin's a bad guy, Ohio State's a good guy.
Because he was going after Bo Callahan, which means the offensive line.
Yeah,
He was
exactly.
having
the Wisconsin goal line was breaking down.
Yep.
I'm just happy that the freaking state to the west of us wasn't in it. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
I don't
right.
think
Gophers.
they're just never good. Yeah,
No.
they're never good.
I agree.
Not good at anything.
What if Green Bay might be drafting a Gopher? Second, third round? Possibly.
I don't have a comment.
Joe's gonna boo that draft pick.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Thank you for listening to Joe and I today. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. If you like what you heard, please give 217 South Mills a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Go tell your friends about us. Like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube.
I'd like to thank Cabin Coffee Altoona for sponsoring us. Everything is always better at the cabin. See you next time. And remember, folks, Red Ass the Run.